Welcome to the Swepstakes College Baseball Podcast, where we talk everything college baseball from the past week. This week, we'll start with our player of the week, none other than pitcher out of Oregon State, Aiden May. Had an incredible Friday night performance with 8 innings pitched, with only 1 hit given up and 14 strikeouts in a rivalry matchup versus ranked Oregon. So super impressive stuff. Showed up when the lights were the brightest and got the job done.
Yeah, I mean, this was huge for Oregon State. They've looked like a lock for a national seed this whole year, but after a messy week last week, wasn't as solidified. But great week for them to bounce back, and he was a big reason why. Super good performance, especially on the strikeout side. Oregon hitters just looked lost the whole night.
Yep, for sure. And next up, we have our top play of the week. And for this, we'll be headed to Arkansas. So we'll play it now.
Been a one-inning guy this season, the 1-1. Driven to center field, pushing Holt back. Plenty of room. Looking to tag will be Done. Catch made. A little pump fake, and he fooled everybody. Now a late break, and the throw home is in time. Peyton Holt with a pump fake on the catch.
So here we had center fielder Peyton Holt with the absolutely amazing deke on the Florida base runners. Just caught everybody off guard and stopped the tying run from scoring. Just all you can ask for to get that out there. It's an incredible play all around. Rarely see something like this pulled off, and for it to be pulled off in a moment like this is super impressive.
Yeah, just the moment it was made in just makes it that much better. This isn't a deke you ever really see, so definitely one he had saved in the bag and was waiting for a big moment. And this was it. Just not sure what the base runner's doing, still going at the end there. Understandably, gets tricked by it. You would think that he would just stay at third there, but still tries going home. Just crazy decision.
Yeah, the blunder definitely makes it a top play. If he just went back, it would still be seen as a really good play by the outfielder, but probably not the play of the week there. But all in all, we take the bad with the good here on this play, and it makes a highlight play all in all. So, yeah, after this, we have our sweep setback of the week. Patent pending, of course. It's been in the process for a while. And this week, it was none other than Coastal Carolina. Most top teams in the top 25 didn't have much of a struggle. There were a few teams losing series here and there, but the one that stood out among the rest was Coastal Carolina, going 0-5 the past week, losing 2 midweeks and then getting swept at home. So just overall terrible week, and really did some damage in conference where they're behind a lot of teams now.
Yeah, it looked like this team could be heading back in the direction of potentially hosting, but 0-5, it's against good teams the whole week, but just not what you want at all, especially the Saturday, Sunday games. They just get absolutely torched. Can't have that happening, especially at home, and so just a brutal week altogether.
Yeah, definitely. And now we have our prediction results from the past week. We chose 5 top series from the past weekend of college baseball. We'll show those on screen. Overall, not a terrible week. Neither of us chose any teams in similar, so no matter what, overall we were going to go 5-5 with the cumulative record there. So really couldn't ask for anything out of this week. Really just going even here cumulatively. I went 3-2. Kevin went 2-3. A lot of close series from the ones we picked, and we're still right under 500 as a team, but I'm slowly building a lead week after week the past few weeks, so definitely need something to change to make a comeback here.
Yeah, I honestly thought this was the week. I thought I had a couple here, and they just didn't come through, so tough week, but we'll look to bounce back.
Yeah, for sure. And now we'll head into the main part of the podcast. We have our rankings from the past week, starting with a lot of the top teams staying in the same area, starting with Texas A&M, still at number 1 after going 3-1 the past week, winning the weekend series versus Georgia. Really just expected those results. Maybe would have liked a sweep since Georgia is I mean, a decent team in the SEC, but definitely a team that they could potentially sweep in that case, but not able to get that done. Really good week overall. Yeah, but wins were good games, especially game two, but final game was super close between Texas A&M and Georgia there.
Yeah, just good week overall. Handled business, and yeah, that second game was a pretty incredible one. Gave up 9 runs in the top of the first. Ended up run ruling them 19-9. Not a stat line you'll ever really see. So pretty crazy, but yeah, great week overall.
Yep, for sure. And now, staying at number two as well, we have Arkansas. Similarly, 3-1 week, winning their midweek and then winning the weekend series versus Florida. What could have looked like a really good weekend series win a few weeks ago. I guess at this point it's probably like 5-6 weeks ago, since Florida has just been going down and down for a while now. But still, Florida has the talent to beat anybody, and so you really can't look past them. Arkansas had a lot of close wins here. The offense really hasn't been showing up great recently. A little bit of question marks here and there now popping up. They're definitely going to need the pitching staff to lead them, and they can. They have the best pitching in the nation pretty much by far. But the offense needs to do something in order to help them out here.
Yeah, still one of the best teams in the country, but not quite as far ahead of the rest of the pack as they were most of this year. The offense is shaky, like you said, and definitely want to see some more consistency and some more production before they head into the postseason. But overall, still a good week here.
Yep. And now at three, finishing off the SEC trifecta, we have Tennessee staying in the spot after a 4-0 week, sweeping Missouri on the weekend. Good result overall, but two of the Missouri games were very, very close. So really expect them to put up some better numbers, but still got the wins at the end of the day. So can't look past that, but definitely want to see maybe a little bit better results, especially because they were really low scoring games for the most part. And Tennessee does have the offense to put up a lot of runs, so maybe it was just a little off week, taking a break, looking past a team like Missouri, and luckily got away with the sweep. But definitely can't continue to consistently do that in order to keep winning games.
Yeah, love to see a 4-0 week, but like you said, was a little confusing to see the offensive numbers down. A team that's regularly putting up double-digit runs multiple times in a week, and yeah, had some low-scoring games against Missouri, who's one of the worst teams in the SEC, probably the worst. So, uh, kind of interesting to see that fall off there, but still one of the best teams in the country, and not too many major concerns there.
Yep, for sure. And now, staying in the same realm, not moving any spots this week, is Clemson. Even though they went 2-2, so not a perfect week, they still won the weekend series at Louisville. So okay week. Really, not great losing the midweek, but it was against Georgia, which is a very capable team and are ranked in some boards across the nation. Not for us, but they are pretty much just on the outside for a while now. Just need a good series win to jump in. But yeah, and definitely getting a win like that against Clemson is important. But yeah, at this point, leaving Clemson in this spot because a lot of teams around them didn't do great. So nobody really deserved to jump up past Clemson. But still got a weekend series win, so that's the most important thing.
Yep, good to grab that series win on the weekend, but this is another team that just similar to Arkansas, not looking as solid as they were for a good portion of this year. Not looking, as solidified as a top like 2 or 3 team in the country. Looking like they could potentially fall, a little bit down these rankings. But still here at 4, still in a good spot, but just would like to see them kind of get back closer to what they were before.
Yeah, for sure. And now at number 5, we have our first mover of the day with East Carolina going up 2 spots from last week after a 4-0 week, beating what was number 15 NC State on the midweek game there and having a dominant sweep at Memphis. I think all in all, super, super impressive week. Got the job done against the tough competition and then just kept that rolling and looked really, really good over the weekend.
Yeah, this was a impressive week, and good midweek win over NC State. And you now look at the overall resume of this team; they only have one series loss. It's on the road at UTSA, who's pretty decent squad. Not a team you're going to see in the rankings, but it's a competitive team, so not the worst series loss. And only having one series loss on the season's a pretty good feat there. So yeah, East Carolina's looking really solid. They have that 1-2 punch on the mound, and yeah, this is a formidable team heading into the end of the year here.
Yep, for sure. And now at 6, we have Florida State moving up 3 spots from the past week after going 3-1, winning the midweek, and then going to what was number 6 Duke and winning that series. So really impressive week overall. They keep doing really well against the top teams. They've looked good even if they're losing games. And really, yeah, week in, week out, especially like the top teams, when they are losing, it's been competitive, especially like last week against Wake Forest. They were a competitive team, even though they lost the series. They didn't have 2 of their starting pitchers, so that's definitely a little asterisk beside that. So, yeah, I mean, the losses are still losses at the end of the day. I mean, they lost to Clemson and losing to Wake, which are 2 of the top teams, but they are still getting good wins occasionally out here.
Yeah, I felt like this was a really pivotal week for Florida State. Like you said, they've had those really close series on the road at Clemson, at Wake Forest, but they weren't able to get the series win. And it's nice for them finally to get that validation of, getting the series win after putting together a good performance on the road against one of the best teams in the country. So nice for them to finally have that kind of a sigh of relief to know that you're able to win those tough games on the road. And so I think this was a really big week for them.
Yep, definitely. And now following them up, another ACC team with Virginia now at 7, also moving up 3 spots after a 3-1 week, winning the midweek as well, and then going on the road to Boston College and winning that series. So overall, good week to get back on track after a little bit of struggles recently. But overall, they have done pretty well against the top teams in the conference that they've faced so far. So I think this definitely deserves to move up a few spots and be in that contention for one of the best teams in the conference.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of movement between the ACC teams in like the 5 to 15 range for, little over a month now. And so Virginia creeping back up in the rankings. They've been playing pretty well, and this was another solid week here. Not the best competition, but I mean, they'll continue to face good teams, and we'll see if they're able to keep it up to close out the year.
Yeah, and now as well, moving up 3 spots is Oregon State, just following that train up and going 3-1 the past week as well. So very similar results, just looking on paper, winning their midweek and then winning the weekend series. This one was at home, but it was against ranked Oregon. So good week where the pitching really showed up, at least for the first 2 games. They were really dominant. Oregon really couldn't get any hits off of them. Yeah, so really great week to get back on track and doing it in different ways. Usually we've seen the offense look really good and pitching also be a plus, but this week was co- completely controlled by the pitching.
Yeah, really good week for them to get back on track after a sloppy series at Cal getting swept last week. And like you said, nice to see the pitching get back on track there. Aiden May had a incredible game, and type of guy that had the potential to be a Friday night ace, but hadn't really put it together previously. Now he's starting to look like he's fitting that role, and he's able to do that. They're extremely dangerous the rest of the way.
Yeah, definitely. And now at 9, we have Kentucky dropping back 4 spots from the past week after a 1-2 week at number 24 South Carolina. So this is now back-to-back weekend series losses. So they definitely have started to show a little bit of weakness that the top of the SEC has not. So there is definitely a little bit of a gap forming between the top 3 teams that we mentioned already and where Kentucky lies. They were super hot for a while, and now there are a little bit of cracks showing there, and I feel like they fit more in that Vanderbilt area, a Mississippi State kind of, where they're just in that second tier of the SEC at this moment.
Yeah, it's tough. They played really well to start the year, and through most of the year in these last 2 weeks, it's looked a little bit more shaky. And I think the concern for me is mainly the bullpen. I mean, a lot of these games we've seen them take the lead in the 7th, 8th, ninth inning, but then give it right back up or blow it altogether and lose the game. So, I mean, you want to be able to take a lead late and have some faith in the guys in the bullpen to be able to lock it up and secure the win. And I don't really have that right now.
Yeah, definitely. And now following them down is Duke, also dropping 4 spots. Similar weekend overall. They went 1-3, lost their midweek game. It was against Campbell on the road, so a tough one, but definitely want to see them come out with that. And then at home, losing to what was number 9 Florida State. Obviously, they moved up to number 6, but yeah, just a bad week overall to lose at home. They have done pretty well against the top tier ACC teams, but obviously want to get the job done against a team like Florida State that has looked really good recently.
Yeah, this would have been a really nice resume piece if they were able to pull it off. Unfortunately, 1-3 week. See them drop a little here. Still in this upper level of the ACC, but would like to see them, get another quality series win against one of these better teams too.
Yeah, definitely. And now, right outside the top 10, we have UC Irvine at 11, going up 2 spots from the past week, going 4-0, beating UCLA in the midweek, and then going to UC Riverside and pulling off the sweep. So, really good week overall. I mean, it was against bad teams, but got the job done and really dominated over the weekend where they should. And, they just continue to impress, just building game after game. A lot of wins and not many losses, so almost in that top 10 once again and just hovering around that spot for a lot of the season now.
Yeah, just looking like one of the best mid majors in the country at this point, and nice to see them be able to, pull off the midweek win over a Pac-12 team, even though it's a struggling UCLA. They dropped the midweek to USC just the other week, so nice to see them sort it out and complete the 4-0 week. That's what you want to see from a mid major. It's what East Carolina did this week as well. You see both of them get rewarded and move up the rankings.
Yeah, speaking of East Carolina, we have the team up next that lost to them in the midweek with NC State, now moving up 3 spots. Still went 3-0. Like we mentioned, lost that midweek at East Carolina, but swept the weekend. So it was a close game during the midweek. Obviously, it was the toughest competition they faced this week. But overall, they played well and really looking more consistent recently, which is the one thing that NC State was missing for a while. They could pretty much beat any team, but they were definitely playing down to the competition a lot of the time when they were facing worse opponents. But recently, they've started to slowly click against pretty much everybody.
Yeah, this team has a really tough schedule to end out the year, but if you see them continue to pick up wins, they're going to continue moving up the rankings because they have those resume points, 3 series wins over top 15 teams, and room to grow on that as well as they continue to play tough competitions. So this is a team that you could see end up hosting, even though it looked like they were far out of the picture just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, definitely. And now at 13, we have Mississippi State going up 4 spots the past week after going 3-1, winning their midweek, and then going to what was number 12 Vanderbilt and winning that series. So very good week, winning on the road, super difficult to do, especially in the SEC. We've seen this like this year. I feel like has been very, very telling of what teams are good in the SEC. If you can get some sort of result on the road, it really just separates you from the rest. And they've looked really good and pretty impressive against the top of the SEC. They somehow are able to salvage a win or two against teams that you maybe not expect, and they're slowly making a case to be one of the best teams in the SEC and country.
Yeah, I think they've really solidified themselves as, towards the top end of that second tier in the SEC. They're starting to have a very good overall record in the conference, and, they continue to pull off these wins. They're going to continue moving up. This is a big series win. Vandy has been solid at home the whole year, so this was an impressive one, and yeah, curious to see how things continue the rest of the way here.
Yep, definitely. And now at 14, we have North Carolina moving up 2 spots, 3-1 week, winning midweek, and then winning the weekend series versus Virginia Tech. So very good overall against decent team over the weekend. Virginia Tech is definitely a team that has been close to being in the top 25, and when they're hot, they look pretty good. And North Carolina just was able to stifle them for the most part. The pitching did really well, so they can do it in multiple different ways. When their offense is clicking, they can really hit the ball well, but pitching is very important, and they're looking like they have a good balance at this point.
Yeah, it's just good week overall. Nice to bounce back after that series loss to NC State, get things back on the right track, and see if they can continue to play well to close out the year. This team's got a lot of talent. They are one of the best teams in the ACC. Just want to see that consistency again, and the ability to continue to hang with the top teams.
Yeah, for sure. And now at 15, we have another ACC team in Wake Forest, dropping back 7 spots from the past week for going 1-3, losing their midweek at Elon, and then losing at Notre Dame, a weekend series. So really bad week overall. Teams that they definitely should be beating, so really can't slip up, especially with this Wake team that looked like they were just starting to get things rolling in the right direction, get right back on track to where they should be, and to have a week slip like this is pretty bad, especially since now looking at just the overall scale of things, the only like top ACC team that they have beaten is Florida State, and like we mentioned earlier, that week Florida State was down 2 of their starting pitchers, so obviously, yeah, I mean, you play the team that you go against, and they got the job done there, but for that to be the only top team that they have beaten so far when they have faced a few here and there, there are definitely a little bit of question marks there, and they definitely need to clean things up a little bit.
Yeah, I think this was a especially tough one because it was multiple pieces of the team kind of not showing up. Josh Hartle had put together quite a few good starts in a row finally, but had a messy start here this weekend, and the offense was really clicking before this weekend as well, starting to put up a lot of runs, and they just didn't really have that run support either this weekend, so can't really have both facets of the game disappearing on the same weekend. You're not going to have good results, and that's what we saw here.
Yep, definitely. And now at 16, we have Vanderbilt dropping back 4 spots from the past week, going 2-2. So not terrible overall, but they did lose that weekend series at home versus Mississippi State. So not great results. They had been looking really good at home, a little bit shaky on the road. So switch up from what we've seen previously. But looking at their current record, they haven't really beaten a good team as of now in conference. They've beaten a few decent SEC teams, but not the top tier teams that we've been talking about. So definitely feel like they are in solidly in that second pack in the SEC.
Yeah, this is a tough one here because, like you said, Vandy's struggled on the road, but they've been really solid at home. And if they just continued down that path, they probably would have locked up a hosting spot. Still on the on the fringe, probably on the inside there. Probably would host if the season ended today, but I mean, you're gonna have to continue to win those series at home in SEC play to lock that up. And if they're not able to do that, then they're gonna have to go on the road, and we've seen some bad results in that end.
Yeah. Now at 17, we have Louisiana going up 1 spot from last week after going 2-2. So even though the team right above them dropped a lot for going 2-2, it's a little bit different after winning their weekend series versus Southern Miss. So one of the top teams that they will be facing on the weekend this year for Louisiana. So good week, even though they dropped their midweek game. Obviously could have been better. Going 3-1 might have been able to propel them up a little bit more. But yeah, overall, still a solid week beating Southern Miss. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a quality series win. Just never want to see that blemish of losing to a team like Houston Christian in a midweek. Not really not a quality opponent to lose to. So that's a tough one. But I mean, end of the day, it's a 2-2 week. Not the worst thing there. Still pretty confident in this team. Kyle DeBarge is an absolute monster in that position player group leading that team. And he was really cooking this weekend. So we'll see if they're able to keep things up.
Yeah, for sure. And now at 18, we have Alabama going up 2 spots from last week after going 3-1 and then going to Ole Miss and winning that series. So very good week. Ole Miss isn't a terrible team this year. We've seen them definitely be up and down. Right now they're still down from what we've seen them be, but they have beaten some decent teams now and then in the conference. So going on the road and beating them there is still an impressive week for Alabama. And the wins, when they came, they were dominant. The loss was very close. So yeah, you take the positives there in that instance where they could have swept if things just went a little differently. But definitely a good week to get back on track for Alabama.
Yeah, definitely a solid week. Whenever you can pick up a road series win in the SEC, you'll take it. And yeah, especially against a team like Ole Miss, who hasn't been great this year, but they've been decent. A team that has the potential to make the postseason, maybe on the outside looking in right now, but definitely a contender. So not a bad team. And I mean, we just know it's tough to go on the road in the SEC. So good week overall.
Yep. And now at 19, we have Dallas Baptist staying in that same spot. Seems like they have been pretty much consistently around here for the past few weeks, even though they were losing a lot, especially in conference. This week they go 3-1, lose their midweek, and then get the sweep on the weekend. So definitely a better result overall, but didn't feel like necessarily moving them up or down here just because of how inconsistent they have been recently. We could have definitely been more harsh previously, but now that we're here, leave them where they're at, especially just the teams around them are doing maybe a little bit better and jumping above them, or teams right above them doing worse, dropping below. So just a little flip flop, and Dallas Baptist staying in this spot, especially because their midweek was against TCU. So probably the best opponent, even though TCU has dropped off the face of the earth. They still lost that game there, so definitely could have impressed a little bit more and jumped up a bit if they were able to get that win.
Yeah, if you're DBU, can't complain about being 19 right now. We were one of the only polls that left them in after losing 3 straight weekends, and I think that says a lot about our confidence in the team overall, and how they've looked when they are playing well. They've looked like one of the better teams in the country when they're playing well, and so have some confidence in them. And this was a good week to get back on track, and we'll see if they're able to keep it on and close things out in the right fashion.
Yeah, I mean, well, it says a lot when the most important poll keeps you in the rankings. That's what really matters here. But now going on to the 20th team in our rankings, we have South Carolina jumping up 4 spots from the past week after going 2-1 versus what was number 5 Kentucky. Really, really good week. Yeah, they could have almost swept them, so that would have been even more impressive, but really can't ask for too much here. Still got the win against a top SEC team here, and so deserve to jump up this much, if not a little bit more, if things panned out a little differently. But yeah, South Carolina looking very solid now in the top 25.
Yeah, I mean, you'll definitely take that 2-1 week against one of the top teams in the SEC. And, they looked down and out of that game on Friday until they hit those 4 solo shots in the bottom of the ninth to tie it up. Absolutely crazy. And so that was a wild game and just a wild weekend. Very good series win for them.
Yeah, for sure. And now following them up, we have Oklahoma State at 21, jumping up 2 spots from last week after going 4-0, beating Oral Roberts on the midweek game and then sweeping BYU on the weekend. So overall, good week against bad teams. Got the job done. Not too much to say here. Deserve to jump up a few spots. Don't really know what's going on in the Big 12. It's just chaos there. So good to get the results there and get those wins to keep stacking, especially with, just how things are. I mean, BYU has beaten, I believe, Texas in the past, so seems like any team can win, but BYU is definitely a team that you want to take care of here, and Oklahoma State was able to do that job.
Yeah, I mean, this is a solid week for them, just handling business. I think they've won 4 out of their last 5 or 5 out of their last 6 now, so, they're playing pretty well through conference play, and see that reflected as the leading Big 12 team here. Messy conference, and they're starting to potentially solidify themselves as the best team in that conference.
Yeah, for sure. And now at 22, we have Indiana State jumping up 3 spots from last week after going 2-1 at Southern Illinois. So good week. Southern Illinois looks like they're a decent team. Their record shows that. But yeah, definitely could have been better, but it was on the road, so can't expect too much there. Got the job done. Slowly we'll be moving up the rankings if they continue to produce results like this. But definitely harder to move up against the teams that they're facing. But yeah, when you get the job done, you're able to jump past teams that struggled a little bit the past week.
Yep, good week overall. Just taking care of business for the most part. Would have liked to see the sweep, but they're taking advantage of teams above them faltering a little bit, and so you know what, you'll take it.
Yep, for sure. And now at 23, we have the one team jumping into our rankings this week, and that is UC Santa Barbara, going 3-1 the past week, losing their midweek, but then getting the weekend series sweep. So good week overall. They continue to just keep stacking the wins in conference and do really well. Looks like they're probably going to be 1 or 2 when this ends here and be making the postseason. So doing very well. It's them and UC Irvine. Unfortunately, lost that series on the road a few weeks ago, but yeah, definitely this point deserve to be back in the rankings. They just continue to stack wins against maybe lesser competition, but they're just getting the job done week in, week out.
Yeah, it was a tough series against UC Irvine, but since then they've bounced back, and even though it's been some lesser opponents, they're winning by a sizable amount. Not really leaving any room for doubt. So they've certainly solidified themselves as one of the best teams in that conference and one of the better teams in the country overall, as they do have some quality wins on that resume.
Yeah, for sure. And now at 24, we have Oregon dropping back 2 spots from last week after going 2-2 and playing a super close series at what was number 11 Oregon State. Now they've moved up a few spots, but yeah, super close series. Only got 1 win on the final day, so good job. Able to salvage it there and not get swept, but played it super close the first 2 games. Especially the second game was pretty back and forth with blows both way, and Oregon just coming out on the losing side of things, but definitely helpful that they get the midweek win at San Francisco earlier in the week to be able to kind of even things out at 2-2 and not drop completely out of the rankings here.
Yeah, not a series you expect them to win on the road there. Certainly one they would like, but it was good to see them be competitive. They looked like a top 25 team, hanging with a team like that. And so good to see. And, big week for them coming up midweek against Oregon State and then weekend series against Utah. And the winner of that series you'll probably see in these rankings. The loser you won't.
Yep, most likely that'll be the case unless things really shake up. But now finishing up our top 25, we have Arizona in that last spot, dropping back 4 spots after going 2-2, winning their midweek, but then going to Washington and losing that weekend series. So bad week, but it was the first time that this has happened in quite a while. The midweek helps, similarly to Oregon, but just a little bit worse of a weekend series loss. The weather wasn't great, and for Arizona, they're always playing in that heat. Definitely a little bit of rain might have affected them, but all the games were very close. Unfortunate to come out on the wrong side of things, especially with that Sunday game there. It almost ended in a tie. The last inning that they were allowed to play, Washington scored the walk-off there. But yeah, definitely a little disappointing against a Washington team that they probably should beat at this point, especially with how hot Arizona was coming into this series.
Yeah, it's a tough one. You pick up all those series wins in a row, those sweeps, and then you lose to a team like Washington, who's decent, but not one of the better teams in the Pac-12. So not really the team you want to be dropping a series to. So kind of a tough one overall, especially it's on the road, but they hang in the rankings for now, and still a solid team overall.
Yep, for sure. And now the team that dropped out from the past week was number 14 Coastal Carolina after 0-5. We mentioned them earlier, just a terrible week. Can't really be doing something like that when you're a mid-major and not facing tough competition week in, week out. This was one of their toughest weeks, and they completely blew it going on the road. 2 games at Creighton for the midweek kind of series, losing both games and then looking pretty bad against Troy at home. Yeah, a lot of the games weren't even close, and that was right after a really, really good week. So they were rising up the rankings, and then for them to blow it like this, it was a real letdown. Yeah, and at this point, with 17 losses as a mid-major, and that would, if they stayed in the rankings, they would have had the most losses in the top 25. Can't really be doing that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between 12 and 17 losses is just massive at this point, and they went from one to the other in just 1 week. So just a brutal, brutal week overall. We touched on it in the setback of the week, but yeah, just not what you want to see.
Yeah, definitely. And some teams to mention that are on the outside looking in. I think Utah, like you said, we have Georgia also as like probably the one SEC team that could jump in if they turn things around, just to get a few good results. I want to say, yeah, like Virginia Tech, Louisiana Tech, Texas Tech, all these tech schools are right on the outside looking in. Just need a few good results to jump in.
Yeah, I think the only one I would add on that is another tech school actually with Georgia Tech. Looks like they've actually had, a little bit of pitching the last couple weekends. We know this offense is solid. Got Drew Burris, one of the best freshmen in the country there. And so the offense can put up numbers. And if that pitching continues to actually limit some runs and play decently well, this is a team that you could see hop in the rankings at the end of the year.
Yeah, definitely. I also want to give a quick shout out to Troy after that weekend sweep at Coastal Carolina. Really good job there, and definitely put their name back on the map and potentially move into the rankings soon if they can keep things up there. But on that note, that will be that for this episode of the Swepstakes podcast. Now, week 11 done, rankings done. Keep an eye out later in the week for our weekend series predictions, where we'll take 5 of the best series and say what we think is going to happen, and probably be pretty wrong about it. But yeah, keep an eye out for that. And until next time, see ya.